Yes, hello world, and welcome to another episode of PaNZIT, the podcast. And I think we've completed pretty much the cloud series, but today, we're going to be talking about a very special topic and a very special guest. By the way, I'm one of your hosts. I'm Joseph Tihal, coming to you from Wellington, New Zealand. And again, thank you so much for listening. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. All our videos are published on our website called PaNZITPro.com. Hey Mike, are you excited on this episode? We have a good friend talking to us tonight.
Absolutely, Joseph. And let me greet everybody first. Good evening from Wellington. It's around 7 p.m. right now. I'm having a good time. The weather is good. I did some cycling earlier, yes. I'm ready to go and talk about certification and how you are going to improve your career through learning from our good friend Sreejith from
Mike,
India.
Yeah, you really look pumped tonight. Maybe because it's because of the bike ride, but as you said, it's one topic close to our heart because as IT professionals, we need to learn, we need to progress. And today we will be talking to Sreejith, and some of you might have come across him in your training because Sreejith is one of our principal instructors at Red Hat. Hey Sreejith, welcome to the show.
Hey, hi Mike and Joseph. Thank you for having me. And I've been watching your podcast, some of the episodes lately, and I think you guys are doing a great job. And so excited to be part of this, talking about career progression, training, and certification.
Awesome.
Now the pleasure is ours, and thank you for making time. And maybe we can begin by probably you can tell us about your career journey, your learning experience yourself. We want to know more about you, how you became a principal instructor, and also it would be nice if you can tell us about things that you do outside of work. So if that's all right, it'll be fun.
Right. So from a professional experience, I have around 15 plus years of experience, but I've been a core Linux user from almost 20 years. Started with Red Hat Linux 6.x in 2000s, and been a Debian user for a long time before switching to Red Hat Enterprise Linux and Fedoras and all those. I've been associated with Red Hat for almost 13 years now. Now I'm having the fourth role within Red Hat. I've been a consultant for almost 2 years, then a solution architect for 3 years in the pre-sales, and now part of the services team within Red Hat, handling the cloud automation enablements to our partners and customers.
That's good.
That's good. Passion outside of work. I'm an environmentalist. I basically try to do something good for nature, but as part of a group. And I just wanted to say, from a technical perspective, like you both, I don't limit myself to Linux or anything Red Hat.
That's good.
So you can ask anything beyond Red Hat.
Now that's really cool. Sreejith, being an environmentalist, if you're gonna tell me one tip on how I can contribute to helping the environment, what's the easiest thing I can do? Practical thing that I can do.
At least from my part, the usage of plastics is too much. So we try to reduce plastic usage and try to use something which could be recycled, like cloth bags and all those. So those are all small steps which you can do from today itself. I'm not sure about your region, but at least in our region, we are seeing a lot of plastic usage, and that needs to be reduced.
That's really cool. You will be happy to hear that New Zealand doesn't allow plastics in the supermarkets anymore. So that's one good step for us. Agree, Mike?
That's right. But then again, plastic is everywhere. Those microplastic pollution that we've been seeing to the food that we're eating, really, through seafoods, and even we can see it in our livestock as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
but anyway, we've segued a little bit there, and it's good that you're telling us your passion and your career journey, Sreejith. But our topic today is a prime relevance to most of us, Joseph and I included, right? Which is basically learning. And I am proud to say that I love learning, and I always push myself to learn because I think that makes me relevant in our industry, the IT industry. And we believe, because of something, learning is something that never stops. So you have a guiding principle that I've seen a lot in your profile. To
Yes.
teach is to learn twice. Can you explain and share this to our listeners, and why you think you use this as your guiding principle?
Yeah, so being a instructor or a teacher, I think you need to be research sharp when you uh, pass on some knowledge to any of your friends or customers or something, right? So if I take my job role with the technology changing, right, you need to invest a lot of time in learning before you can impart that knowledge to someone else, right? So and the most challenging part these days is the technology is changing, right? If you look at a decade back, right, I started my virtualization journey with desktop virtualization with Microsoft Virtual PC, then VMware Workstation. But gone are the days where VMs are a important factor, right? We are talking about serverless containers, right? So
Yes.
to learn twice, right, you need to learn twice to impart that to someone else, and it's more challenging these days with technological change and rapid innovation. So that's
True,
why I
true.
chose that keyword. That's it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Awesome. So you alluded that you are an instructor, and we've introduced you to be not only an instructor but a principal instructor of Red Hat services, right? So, in Red Hat, we know, and even in our wider industry, technologies change in a very short time, and for you to be able to teach, you actually need to dig deeper into this technology that you're teaching.
Yeah.
Any tips on how to set up yourself to learn this vast list of technology? I know you have some focus, but there's still a lot of
That's a lot.
learnings that you need.
Yeah.
And if you can share that, how you set up yourself, and basically how do you study? Because I myself, as a limited brain
Brain
power, I
capacity,
can only
yes.
focus on certain things,
Yeah.
and I admire you because you are teaching many topics, and I've seen you in action, and I love the way you teach these courses.
Yeah, so primarily I teach Red Hat's commercial products based trainings, which are officially supported by Red Hat. But as you know, these days with our partner ecosystem, right, we have our container platform in Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, you name it. If you look at our automation, you can work with different third-party vendors, right? So to your question about how do I learn myself? Obviously, use a lot of these partner infrastructures. Thanks to many of these partners, they offer so many free tires to learn yourself, right? And then from a home lab perspective, I use a Linux desktop environment, Fedora 34. And thankfully, I have a good machine with 32 gig of memory, and also I use the KVM libvirt with Fedora to create multiple virtual machines.
Yeah.
And the good thing about these days with Red Hat developer subscription and all, you can freely download the RHEL subscription
Correct.
and use it for your development and enablement activities, right? So you don't need to be legally bound to pay anything, right? As long as it is for learning and development activities, you can use that. So use it with your preferred virtualized environment. It could be server virtualization if you have the option to do that, or use your desktop virtualization. Create as many VMs you have, and if possible, try to do containerized
Yeah.
R&D. right? We have a lot of container toolings available these days.
Mm.
And also, I know Mike and Joseph, you both know a lot of free resources which are
True.
available from Red Hat,
Yep.
Mm.
which
Yep.
our attendees or learners can actually use it for free, right? So
Mm.
Correct.
I use a combination of all of this to make
Uh-huh.
sure that I keep updated.
Yeah.
That's cool. Don't worry, to our listeners, we will share a summary of all those free
Mm.
resources that Sreejith was
Mm.
talking about, and it will be very useful for you. And
Yeah.
while listening to you, Sreejith, I was actually looking back. I won't say how many years ago, but it was a few many years ago. I would carry this lab manual or this manual from
Mm.
probably Sun Solaris or HP Unix just to go to the training center, and we will study that manual, that thing.
Mm.
And that was a long time ago, and things have
Mm.
changed a lot. And
Mm.
that's from my perspective as the student. But being a very experienced teacher and
Mm.
instructor, how have you seen learning change through the years,
Mm.
especially the last 2 years, the last year, I would say.
Yeah, right. So I think let's go back a bit more earlier. It's not
Mm.
just about the last 2 years. If you look at the
Mm.
last maybe 6 to 7 years,
Uh-huh.
the way we all learn has changed, right? I mean, if you look now, if you want to learn something new about any topic, what I do is I go to YouTube and search. Okay,
Mm.
Mm.
I don't go to Google.
Mm.
You may go to Google, Bing, or any of your preferred
Yep.
search engines, but video-based learnings are actually
Correct.
having a high
Yeah.
demand these days, right? So
Mm.
it's not just about the last 2 to 3 years. If you look at
Mm.
2012, 2013, 14, the
Mm.
educational-based videos have actually taken an uptick, right?
Mm.
And the same thing happened with our vendor trainings, be it Red Hat or any other partners, right?
Mm.
Gone are the days where we use a hard copy
Mm.
or a printed material, right? Like
Mm.
you remember the
Yeah.
thick materials which we used to do. But
Yes.
these days, we use electronic medias, right? The
Mm.
PDF copies, so that you can actually download it and keep it offline and reference
Yeah.
it later.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
I just wanted to say about Red Hat, we do have Red Hat Learning subscription. And the
Mhm.
good thing about that is you get to download the latest versions of the same course which you attended
Mm.
last month or three
True.
3 months back, right? So
Mhm.
going back to what we said earlier, right? Technology is changing, the product versions are getting
Mm.
updated, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So if I knew about container technology from 2017, I think
Mm.
that
Well,
technology is
yeah.
not relevant
It's
Gone.
anymore,
gone.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and just
So
to yeah, just to add on that, because you mentioned earlier that you usually set up your laboratories, and I do that. I have my own labs here. I
right,
use Nook because it's small. It has it uses the small power. It's not noisy.
right.
But
Yeah.
one of the training, one of the ways that maybe people needs to look at are, there are a lot of interactive training that you can get from the likes of Red Hat,
Mhm.
to try specific products, for example, like OpenShift, that runs in Katakuda, for example,
Yeah.
that you can actually explore and test, how to deploy an application, for example. So I think those things, you've shared the link to us. We can also share that to our to our listeners as well.
Yeah, just to add to what Mike said, it's not about the online labs available. They're all so micro focused, right? See, you don't need to spend a day or two to learn something, right? You spend around 5 minutes to read a text,
Mm.
maybe spend another 5 minutes to do that textual activity in the lab environment, then you move to something else you do, right? So
Uh-huh.
the learnings these days are so micro focused, right? If you ask me, my attention span these days is maybe 10 minutes, not beyond that, right?
That's very
So
true. Yeah.
see, if I use the word microservices and take that micro from there,
Yeah.
right? Micro learnings are very, very relevant these days. So
Indeed.
thanks,
Yeah.
Mike, for
Yeah.
reminding that learning opportunities with
Yeah.
Mm.
Red Hat.
Yeah, yeah, and to follow it through, there are different types of people. There are people who can just read and learn and take certification and pass, and there are people that maybe like me or maybe like you that you need to actually test it, be confident about the nitty gritty of how to use the product, and then go and take the exam. But would you recommend, I mean, based on your experience, what do you think is the proper way of learning? Is it enough for you to just get the certification? Would that help you find a job, or you actually need to go through, learning product itself and then putting together some solution and then taking an exam? What is your take on that?
Yeah, so personally, as an instructor, I have trained a lot of professionals who have like 20 plus years of experience in the
Right.
field, right?
Mm.
So it depends on your current role and your current experience. But from a fresher's perspective, I always recommend you do some hands-on activities, complemented with a lot of expert videos which we have out there from YouTube or any other
Yeah.
resources. But just by reading and going through the theoretical stuff, you won't be having the correct foundations to build your knowledge, right? You should get your hands dirty, right?
That's right.
Initially, it will be slightly difficult, but once you get into that, maybe in a day or two or a week or two, I think you get used to seeing it for yourself and you believing it, right? So
Yep.
That's right.
I always follow that. I need to see something to believe it, right? Just by reading, I don't believe anything, right? So I know you both also echo the same sentiment, right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but from an experienced professional perspective,
Mm-hmm.
if you're coming from a Unix background, you have
Mm.
good experience with Unix, but you don't have time to invest on Linux.
Yep.
For you, you may actually read through some of the content to do some mappings or
Yes.
relation between Linux and Unix.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I always encourage and advocate trying everything and believing it.
Yeah. So
No,
so
yeah.
just
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Sorry, Joseph. Just to follow up on that, because I'm a system admin by heart,
Yeah.
and I've transformed myself to learn Kubernetes and maybe code using whatever possible automation that task that I can automate. I mean, so with these changes in the way our industry go through from a focus systems admin doing a systems admin job to do more, more in Kubernetes, to do more in container world. So how relevant it is to continue learning, especially in this fast-paced world, do you think? Is and how would you, what is your recommendation for people that is trying to transform from, say, for example, systems admin to a uh, container adoption journey, or going to
Yeah,
OpenShift, to be
right. So
more
I just
specific?
wanted to highlight container technology is not a new technology anymore. It is the default with many vendors, right?
Correct.
That's
So
right.
if I go back to the role which you mentioned, system administrators, though
Mm.
we still have system administrators profile, you might have noticed those roles are now slowly getting transitioned to something like the site reliability engineering, SREs, and all those. So that
Yep.
basically means scalability is an important factor in any IT business these days, right? What that
Yeah.
means is you need to transform yourself beyond the traditional Microsoft
Correct.
Windows or Linux environments and start
Mm.
embracing these cloud native based
Yeah.
infrastructures and applications, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to repeat the buzzwords like agile and DevOps. You all know that, but
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that you should be
It's
aware about what is happening in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone talks about some of the latest frameworks like maybe Node.js or React and all, being a infrastructure guy, you should have knowledge to understand what they are speaking and try to have a common language of interaction between them, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
if you ask me whether I am a DevOps guy, I would say I am 75% ops and 25% developer. I can understand what developers are speaking to me, though I may
Correct.
not be able to code myself, right?
Yeah.
So you need to have a blend of both. So to summarize, we in Red Hat use think containers are Linux, right? And Linux is everywhere, right? So
Yes.
and good thing Microsoft is also embracing containers, and we
That's
have
true.
OpenShift working with Microsoft
Mhm.
Windows nodes to run heterogeneous application workloads in containers, right?
Yeah. It's actually a good point you raised there, Sujit, because each of your student, they have different reasons why they go to your training. Some of them being pushed by their manager, oh, you need to learn this. Some because they have customer demands that they need to support this specific one, and some just to learn on their own so that they can progress their career, perhaps. And one of the options that we have on the market, as you said, is Red Hat trainings and whatnot. And Mike and I have an idea how different the Red Hat trainings, especially the exams, is compared to other providers, right? Tell our listeners about your thoughts on how different the Red Hat trainings and exam certifications are compared to other providers.
That's really good.
Right. So all Red Hat trainings are performance-based trainings. And the good thing is that all Red Hat certifications and exams, which you talked right now, are all performance-based.
Correct.
So you need to basically put your theoretical knowledge into practice in a timed environment.
Yeah.
So if you look at our flagship entry-level certification, which is Red Hat Certified Engineer, you need to spend 2.5 hours in front of a simulated environment. You need to apply your theory in practice, and you need to have 70% or above. Then only you will be certified, right? So what we can guarantee you is when you did that certification, it may be 3 years back or 5 years back, you did have the knowledge to pass the certification. Yeah, you might have moved away from maybe Linux to something else, but we know that at some point in time you had the skill set. It's just a matter of updating your skill sets, right? So in that aspect, I'm very proud, like both of you, to say that Red Hat certification exams are performance oriented.
Yes.
And you pass it only if you actually really know the stuff. Yes, you may be able to take the certification exams couple of times, but that's not static, right? When you face an interview board, or when you try to progress your career by switching roles or switching organizations, people will be very easy to understand your relevant skill set. So make sure that you get trained and certified in the right way.
That's correct, Sreejith. And some of the actual exams, it's not just 2 hours; it's 4 hours of actual hands-on. But the good thing is you're allowed to go to the toilet every 1 hour. So and you're allowed to have food on the side. So when you get hungry over that 4 hours time, you can eat. So that's all good. But what's your funny story on that? Do you have any funny stories on your exams?
Yeah, so being an examiner, I remember, I think it was like 2009 or 2010. There was one professional who was quite anxious while doing the certification exam, and he wanted to have a smoke break, right? So as per our policy, the candidates could actually go out one at a time. And as long as that person is in the visibility of the examiner, he can actually take a smoke break. So I remember letting him take a 5-minute smoke break, relax himself, and come back. Right. So I think those kind of flexibilities are there. And just to add, you may both know we are actually having remote examination these days. Right? You can actually take the certification at the exam at the comfort of your office or your home. Like you're watching now, we do actually make sure that all confidentiality requirements are met, and you can boot the exam environment from a USB media, right? and take the certification exam at your
Yes.
home. So
Mm.
I have actually done the remote exam last month, and I can guarantee you that it's a great experience. And
Yeah.
with the current travel restrictions, it's a great innovation.
No, definitely.
I,
I've done it myself. Yeah, mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't experienced the remote exam yet,
Uh-huh.
but I've got my RHCE on Rail 5, Rail 6, and Rail 7. So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can tell you that it's
Mm.
always excitement. Yeah, I always get excited and
Yes.
anxious because it's really a test of skills. It's not
Correct.
just you learn it from the book and sit down and do it by multiple choice. It's
And
actually doing and making sure that the systems works based on the use
correct.
case that we've
And I think both of you and everyone who has taken the Red Hat exam will agree that it's worth investing your time on
Yes.
sitting down an exam because it
Mm.
definitely gives you the credibility and the
Right.
integrity that hey, yeah, I know what I'm doing because I'm doing it hands on.
Yeah.
And
So
I
so
just wanted to add, sorry, Mike. Though you do not have internet connectivity and all in a real Red Hat examination, you
Mm-hmm.
have the option of checking all the documentations which are available in your
the
system,
man
like
page.
blank pages,
Yeah.
info pages, right?
Yeah.
So you don't need to really remember everything. You
Correct.
just need to know where
Yes.
to go and look at the
Exactly. That's a
information.
super good point. It's a matter of
Yeah.
familiarizing
Right,
yourself how to manage all of those information. That's a good one.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just going back to the Red Hat certification, I know that Red Hat I think is one of the most difficult to
Mm,
pass exam based on
mm,
my experience. Um, and and I don't know if we share the same I would say opinion on that, but based on your experience taking other exams like
mm.
AWS or Azure, is it worth investing this time there your time getting this training sorted and passing the exam in Red Hat's I mean when I talk about Red Hat exams.
I would say yes. So
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the current market, right,
Mm-hmm.
it's driven by system integrators, right? You have
Mm,
Right.
SIs, right?
Mm.
So
mm.
if you go to any customer place, they always prefer the vendor-based solutions, be it Red
True.
Hat or any other partners.
Yeah.
So if you
Yes.
look at Red Hat, they nowadays prefer certified people because
Mm.
those organizations do not want to spend time upskilling after they join the
Yeah.
organization, right? So if you
Mm.
have a certified professional, their
Mm.
chances of getting accepted by their customers
That's
are
right.
Huge.
more compared to you
Exactly.
do not having a certification.
Mm,
That's
Remember
true.
one thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy to qualify a person as a professional with this changing technological landscape,
mm-hmm.
right?
That's true.
So
Yeah.
if you have the vendor certification, I'm not
Mm.
talking about Red Hat per se,
Mm.
any vendor certification,
Mm.
it's always good. With
Mm.
Red Hat certification, like you said, because it's a performance-based certification exam, we
Mm.
have more confidence in hiring that professional compared to other vendors.
Mm.
That's
Right.
right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, and I always tell this to my friends and even my family who are wanting to be an IT professional like us. I always tell them that having a certification gives you an edge to the
Mm.
other 100 people that is applying for the same job, because having a certification means that you spend some time to actually learn specific technologies.
Yeah.
Now, in relation to that, what do you think are the most relevant skills nowadays? Can you say enumerate at least two or three? And why do you think they are the hot relevant skills, especially for up and coming IT professionals?
Good one.
Right. Yeah. So I know most of who we are watching us now know that cloud computing is a relevant
Mm.
technology. So I'm not
Mm.
going to repeat that.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things beyond cloud, right? If you look at the microservices architecture, right?
Mm,
The critical element of that is automation, right?
mm,
Now, now everyone will be doing one form of automation. But the most critical thing, which I believe and I see customers asking us, is the security around all of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to
Mm-hmm.
say, maybe cyber security or security of doing all of this in a regulated manner, right?
Yes.
So anything which we do, we need to make sure that security is actually in place, right?
That's really
So
good. Yeah.
if you look at the container technology, most of our training requirements, especially from financial institutes or
Mm.
banking or insurance, these days they ask, okay, we know container technology, but we do not know whether we are doing it right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Or whether we are doing it as per the compliance and regulations. So
Mm.
security for me is one of the key elements
Correct.
of technology these days, because many
Mm.
a times all of us, including me, will take security light, and then we actually hear the bad stories later,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we
That's
need to be
right.
proactive, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. That's
Yeah.
good. That's really
Yeah.
good point. Yeah.
And that's really good. And at the same time, being a student, we were talking about it. Like probably
Mm.
Mike and I have different learning methods. And
Yeah.
if we're learning something like very technical, you said security, you said cloud, we have
Mm.
different styles. I would probably be more relaxed. Mike would probably be more the one that's really committed to learning. What's your experience in different types of students,
Mm.
particularly on their learning style? Because we have different learning styles, right?
Mm.
And if you're gonna give me, I'm a student, and you're gonna give me a piece of advice on how I can make the most of my training time with you. What do you think will help me make the most of my time with you? So
That's good.
during the training
Yeah.
itself.
So right. So one thing which I always suggest my learners when they attend my training is, uh, when I'm demoing something, right,
Mm-hmm.
look at how I'm demoing it, right? I may not be able to demo everything out of my mind, right? So
Mm.
going back to my suggestion of looking at man page, uh, if I need to create a SAN storage with our iSCSI
Yeah.
utilities within Linux,
Yeah.
I may only remember the command. The
Mm-hmm.
rest of the things I'm confident I can look at the man page
Mm-hmm.
and shamelessly copy paste stuff, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
So, what I want to tell to my learners is invest time only on learning those small nuggets of knowledge, right? There
Mm.
is no reason you need to learn an entire IP tables command. It's practically not
That's
useful,
right.
right? So, uh, uh, invest time and try to use your spaces in brain only to learn and allocate these nuggets of information,
Right.
right?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask me how can I manage a Kubernetes cluster,
Mm.
I am confident to say that I need to use kubectl, right?
Mm.
Beyond that, I know we have enough resources within the Kubernetes cluster
Yep.
on
Mm.
how to
Yep. Yep.
manage it, right?
Mm.
So my tip and trick to anyone is learn only things which you need to learn,
Mm.
and most
True.
important thing, it's difficult to unlearn which you learned, right?
Ah.
That's
So
right.
yeah, so
Yeah.
with the technology change, right? I mean, if you look at the next generation, they come
Mm.
and speak to you,
Mm.
and they don't know how it was done a decade back, right?
Mm.
Correct.
So
Mm.
to learn new things, you need to remove something from your brain, and
Yeah.
that's called as unlearning. So invest time and space only for things which are very relevant,
Mm.
Mm.
and consider yourself good, so that given
Mm.
the environment, right, you are all good to search for information and find the relevant information,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
So
Mm.
repeating again, I look at documentations and man pages which are available in the system,
Yeah.
Mm.
than going to Google or Bing 10 times a day, right?
It's a good tip. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. So
Mm.
you mentioned that micro learning or learning nuggets only, something that you can fit in your brain, so that actually you can use it, in your daily,
Uh,
career or
uh,
daily work. What do you think, and where do you think our listeners can get this type of micro learning? Is there any website? Is there any, I would say, tricks in Google search, for example, to to find those keywords so that they can access those uh, training or something to do with what you call this interactive tutorial of sort
and
Right.
resources.
So, yeah, right. The standard tips with how to search for information by adding the vendor domain, right? So, if you want something to look at redhat.com, maybe interactive learning, then redhat.com in Google or Bing, right? But being an associate from Red Hat, we do have interactive learning for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which is lab.redhat.com. For OpenShift, we have learn.openshift.com, which uses Katacoda, which Mike mentioned earlier, right? So these are all good learning options. And the good thing is, all of these environments are actually available for 1 hour. And you can actually spend maybe 10 minutes of reading and 10 minutes of doing the hands-on activity, and then come back at a later time and revisit that. And the one which I like the most is none of these require you to log in. No funny usernames, password, email address, and all.
No credit card.
Go there.
No
Nothing.
credit card.
Just go there. Click. You don't need to identify yourself even, and we use it quite a lot to run many of our Red Hat marketing workshops. And I strongly recommend checking that out. And I'm sure Mike and Joseph would be sharing it.
Yes,
I will. We will share the list for you,
that.
and not just for Red Hat, but I think we can provide some other partner resources to everyone.
I mean, one thing that I use a lot when I was learning Kubernetes, for example, is the Kubernetes.io. If you go to Kubernetes.io/tutorial, if I remember it correctly, there is this Katacoda interactive tutorial as well, just like what we have in Red Hat. So, those things are actually available for everyone to use.
And also one other step which I may want to repeat, I think I told it earlier as well. Try to download all the free vendor-based solutions. So the developer subscription from Red Hat will enable you to download RHEL, and not just RHEL, the code-ready containers, which is a single node Kubernetes deployment or OpenShift deployment, code-ready workspaces. So go and try to use that. Even OpenShift dedicated, which is our dedicated offering, has a 60-day trial, right? You can actually get 2 months trial. Make use of it, and see, all of these are free resources, right? You don't need to invest anything, right? So make use of that.
Yes, and just like that, we are running out of time because we're enjoying the conversation. And I don't know about you, Mike and Sreejith, but I always remember my teachers, especially my favorite teachers, because your teachers and your instructors, they leave something behind to you that you will carry along maybe on the next stages of your life. And it's such a pleasure having an instructor himself on the podcast, and we definitely learned a lot from you. And we just want to hear a few more words, tidbits of wisdom and advice for our IT professionals out there, straight from you, Sreejith. So the last few bits of wisdom that you can share with everyone when it comes to learning.
Yeah, so I'm always afraid of being competitive in the market, right? It's a very diverse market, right? So be aware that everyone is replaceable, right? So you need to have an edge, right? Make yourself irrespective of age, right? Whether you are in your early 30s or late 40s or whatever, invest some time in learning, right? We have a lot of resources. Take one step at a time and be competitive, right? Otherwise, you have a lot of challenges internally within the organization as well as in the wider IT landscape, right? And it's not difficult to do that with all the free resources which we mentioned from all the vendors. It's a matter of investing some time wisely. Like I mentioned earlier, focus on what you need to learn, right? Nuggets of information is always going to be fruitful than spending days or weeks of learning something which is not fruitful, right?
Well, there you go. You heard it straight from Sreejith. Have the edge, keep on learning, be focused, and be efficient on the way you learn. Be focused on what you need to learn rather than learning everything all at the same time. And again, just with that, thank you so much, Sreejith. We had a pleasure having you. I'm sure Mike is definitely glad to have you on the show, and probably we're looking forward to having a follow-up just in case. So thank you so much, Sreejith, and to all our listeners out there. If you have any feedback and if you want to ask more, just feel free to comment and we'll try to answer them on the podcast. Thank you very much and have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening ahead. Bye-bye.